Alrighty, thank you everybody for tuning in to this, the 17th iteration of the Konoha Companion. And I'm Joshua, I'm your Konoha Companion, as always. And on this episode, we're going to be covering Season 1, Episode 17 of Naruto, entitled White Past, Hidden Ambition. And before we dive too deeply off into it, I want to give you a quick rundown of what happened on the previous episode in my own words. And so, to make it quick, Kakashi successfully defended the bridge builder from Zabuza, and Sasuke figured out how to stop Haku. Sasuke awakened his Sharingan and was forced into a situation where he had to sacrifice himself to save Naruto, and he is dead. Like, lifeless, Haku's given a speech about it type shit, like, it's for real. This emotional trauma and being in a state of emotional duress causes the Nine Tails chakra within him to awaken and leak out. The seal that holds it all in is effectively broken to a degree. The chakra was visible to the naked eye, and it formed a giant fox head above Naruto and then swirled into the sky. It's worth noting that chakra typically isn't visible to the naked eye. So like the blue stuff that we've been seeing as chakra is really just there to make sure that we understand where chakra's happening, but really that's an invisible force. Naruto underwent a slight transformation. His eyes became red with vertical slit pupils, and his hands grew larger and he grew claws. And the lines on his face became much more pronounced, almost Whisker-esque, and he kind of took on the physical attributes of the nine-tailed fox as the nine-tailed fox chakra compelled him. He then went to attack Haku, and the episode ended. Right? And so that kind of wraps up episode 16, what happened, where we're at now. And so this episode starts a little ways back into that, where Naruto is holding Sasuke's lifeless body. And Haku is asking him, is this the first time you've seen a friend die in battle? It's the way of the shinobi. And Haku recedes into the mirror. And Naruto says to Haku, you're going to pay for this. And suddenly a ring of smoke forms around Naruto on the ground, which starts swirling and growing denser and more violent. And suddenly the smoke blasts away from Naruto, and it's revealed that there's like a swirling corkscrew of red chakra swirling around and above Naruto. At this point, the beat drops and Naruto looks up from Sasuke and his face has changed. He has markings on his cheek. They're almost like whiskers, and his eyes are red and his pupils are now vertical slits, and his teeth have gotten sharper and larger, and he exclaims, I'm gonna kill you. And Naruto growls and groans and he struggles with the Nine Tails chakra. And it zooms in on his face, and at that point the title slide comes in and Naruto reads White Past, Hidden Ambitions. It then takes us back to Naruto, and he's blasting everything away from him violently with this swirling chakra field that's emanating around him in every direction. This clearly shocks Haku, and Haku even remarks the bloodlust in his eyes. This is no longer a child. And Naruto lunges for Haku, who throws a Senbon at him, and Naruto yells and sends a wave of chakra at the needles and blasts them away, right? Like Haku threw needles at him, and Naruto literally just yelled and blasted them away. That's how powerful he is in this state. He can just yell and deflect your damn. He doesn't even need to catch it. He doesn't need to dodge it. He's just literally going to brute force with nothing but chakra energy. Knock that shit away, which is pretty incredible. This startles Haku, who manages to avoid Naruto's attack at the last second by transferring into another mirror. who then remarks, "His chakra grows stronger every second. I must strike now." And he suddenly appears in all of the mirrors. He draws his Senbon and attacks. And the attack lands directly, hitting Naruto in every direction, embedding the needles deeply in Naruto, right? All on his back, all over the place. Naruto yells and flexes and sends a wave of red chakra in every direction, blasting the Senbon out of him. And this is so violent that Haku has to shield his eyes, even while he's in the mirror. And while he's shielding his eyes, Naruto leaps and punches the mirror and shatters it. And it's wild that Naruto possesses that type of strength. Even the fireball jutsu had nothing on these mirrors, and he just shattered one into a million pieces with a single punch now that the Nine Tails chakra energy is effectively flowing. Haku leaps from one of the shards of glass from the shattered mirror, and he's got his kunai drawn, and he yells, "Now!" And he launches an attack, which Naruto dodges, and he goes off spinning, and Haku slams into the ground, and Naruto catches himself and kind of slides, and then he looks up at Haku and growls, and Haku remarks, "That's impossible." And he goes to recede into the safety of a mirror when suddenly Naruto grabs his arm. And Haku thinks, "Those eyes." And Naruto then flexes and screams, and a field of chakra swallows them both. And it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of that fight plays out. It's nuts that Naruto's so powerful in this point that he's just able to scream and flex and just create fields of energy that are so powerful that it's blasting shit away. I think that Haku is definitely awoken a giant in Naruto by taking out his one friend. It's a bad deal for those guys at this point. Bad deal for everybody, right? But definitely a bad deal for Haku and them. It's not trending in a great direction for those guys. It then takes us to Kakashi, who's thinking, could it be? The seal has been broken. No, it's been loosened, and a glimmer of the Nine Tails Fox's chakra has slipped through, but the seal still holds. Good, then maybe we still have a chance. And Kakashi then pulls a scroll out of his vest, undoes the seal on the scroll, throws the scroll in the air, runs his thumb through the blood on the wound that Zabuza gave him earlier. He catches the scroll, unfurls the scroll, and rubs the blood across the scroll horizontally and thinks to himself, just maybe. And he then yells, "Zabuza, I don't mean to spoil your fun. I know how you like to stretch these things out. But how about we put an end to this now? Come on, what do you say? We're both busy people." And this seems a little contradictory, right? I thought that Zabuza was known for killing people so fast they didn't even know they died, right? The silent killing technique. And so, which is it? Is Zabuza an instant kill silent guy, or is he a long and drawn out talkative guy? And it seems like it's a long drawn out talkative guy, whenever he can't get you with the silent kill. Zabuza responds to this, tempting. I'm curious to see how you intend to back up such brave words. Show me, Kakashi. And it takes us back to Naruto and Haku in the Crystal Ice Mirror Dome, and Naruto still has Haku by the wrist, and he is emanating a field of energy that's so violent that it destroys the ice mirrors, right? Literally just the emanating, swirling field of violent chakra that's coming out of Naruto is so powerful that it's destroying the mirrors, right? And for scale, Sasuke hit the mirrors with his sharpest jutsu that he had, the fireball jutsu, and it didn't even do anything. I mean, Haku kind of like laughed at the whole deal. And Naruto isn't even channeling this, right? He isn't even doing like hand signs or like focusing all of this chakra into something that's direct, right? This is just in every direction so violent that it's destroying everything. So there's clearly levels to the capacity that these ninja have, and we just discovered that Naruto is like breaking the scales, which is wild. I mean, just again, for a quick comparison, the uncontrolled emanating field of chakra that Naruto is creating is strong enough to destroy the entire Ice Mirror Dome, when Sasuke's best jutsu, the fireball jutsu, wasn't enough to even melt one. So, holy cow, right? Now, while Naruto has Haku by the wrist, Haku with his other hand is casting a hand sign and thinks, I can't, his energy is too strong. And Naruto then loads up the right hand to end all right hands and punches Haku so hard that it sends him flying, and he bursts through a mirror and out of the dome and goes hurling through the air and lands on the ground and goes rolling, and his mask cracks all over. And it then shows all of the mirrors cracking, lighting up white and shattering, right? The dome has effectively been destroyed in its entirety at this point. And Haku kind of stands up slowly and shocked, and Naruto is just sprinting at him. And Haku thinks, Zabuza, I'm no match for this boy. And the left side of his mask falls off. And he then thinks, Master, I have failed. And the other half of his mask falls off. And Naruto leaps into the air to land the finishing blow. And just as Naruto goes to land the final punch, we transition to a scene where two birds flutter by and off into the direction of the sun, kind of off in the woods. And then it shows the second half of Haku's mask landing at his feet. And it then reveals that Naruto has stopped at the last minute and didn't land the punch. And it shows that Naruto's face is back to normal. And obviously he took control of the situation again. He wasn't as heavily influenced by the Nine-Tails Fox chakra. And, Naruto doesn't want to punch someone who isn't defending themselves, and he was able to stop the whole thing. He then asks Haku, so that guy in the woods, that was you? And it gives us a quick flashback of Haku in the woods. And Haku asks, why do you not strike? Did you not just vow to avenge your comrade's death by killing me? Or was that vow just empty words? And it then shows Sasuke laying dead on the ground. And Naruto grunts and strains and punches Haku right in the face. And it knocks Haku to the ground and causes him to spit up blood. But Haku stands up and says, no, that won't do. You're still holding back. If that was all the strength you can put into it, you'll never keep your vow. Perhaps he didn't mean as much to you as you pretend. And it then flashes us back to Haku in the woods asking, is there anyone who's important to you? And it flashes back to when Haku was recovering from Naruto's sneak attack whenever they ambushed Team 7. And in that flashback, he's saying, there's only one person who matters to me, and I live to protect and serve him. It then brings us back to Haku on the bridge, who continues, that is my purpose, to show mercy to those who oppose the one you serve, to allow his enemies to live when you could strike them down. This is not compassion. This is a betrayal of your life's very purpose. For what reason do you exist then? You're of no use to no one. Your life has no meaning. It is mere existence, day after day of pain and struggle, signifying nothing. And Naruto responds, yeah, well, speak for yourself. And Haku asks, are you really that blind, little one? I am speaking of myself. This day has shown that I am no longer of any use to Zabuza. And Naruto, clearly off put by this, asks, Zabuza, why that guy anyway? To devote your life to a rotten skunk who doesn't know the meaning of the word honor? If he's really the one person that matters to you, man, that's the sorriest thing I've ever heard. And full stop, Naruto calls Zabuza a rotten skunk. My God. That's great. Like that's some excellent shit talk. But for real, why would you devote your life to Zabuza? I don't know. Maybe because Haku feels like he owes Zabuza his life, because Zabuza saved him from perpetual homelessness in a unforgiving cold environment that would have likely led to his imminent death and suffering, right? So he was saved from suffering and imminent death by Zabuza. So it's not really rocket science here. And Haku responds to this, there were once others who mattered to me long ago. And it flashes back to Haku's past, and he continues, my father and my mother. I was born in the land of water in a small village where the snow lies deep in the winter. My parents were farmers and very poor. Our life was hard, but we were content. My parents were good to each other and kind to me. And at this point, it's showing Haku's parents standing outside of what appears to presumably be their humble home, and they're holding an infant Haku and they're giving him loves, and it's all very sweet, right? Something you'd expect. And Haku continues, yes, we were happy once, but then everything changed. And the memory goes black, and it takes us back to the standoff between Naruto and Haku on the bridge. And at this point, Haku continues, because of something that happened long before I was even born, everything changed. And Naruto asks him, what do you mean? What was it? What happened? And Haku responds, it wasn't my doing. It is in the blood. And Naruto questions, the blood? So what was it? You said something happened that changed everything? And Haku raises his head and responds, it was my father who changed. He killed my mother and almost killed me. And this is obviously shocking news, right? Like, obviously he's a bad guy. You assume he's got some troubled shit going on from his past, but damn it, man. Haku's dad killed his mom and tried to kill him on some barbarian shit. Dang. At this point, it flashes back to Haku's homeland, and it's ablaze, right? And Haku continues, after years of suffering the horrors of civil war, the people of my land had come to fear and hate anyone who carried the Kekkei Genkai in their blood. And Naruto questions, a Kekkei Genkai? And Haku explains, the advanced bloodline trait of a clan. Its jutsu and abilities passed down from generation to generation. Because of their unique abilities, the clans were used as mercenaries. They fought in many battles and were much feared, but when the war was over, they were despised and shunned by the people who feared their presence would only bring more war and misfortune. So it was after the wars, these clans went into hiding, denying the bloodline trait that flowed in their veins, concealing their unique abilities, knowing that to be discovered meant certain death. If you had searched that boy's memories, referring to Sasuke here, I'm sure you would have found it there too. The cruelty of people, the fear of things they don't understand. For years, my mother was successful in hiding her bloodline trait. She met and fell in love with a simple farmer, and they were married. And after that, my mother thought she would lead a peaceful life, ordinary to the end of her days. It then flashes back to Haku as a child, and he's playing with a sphere of water that he's created, and he's laughing and tells his mom, "Look what I can do." And his mom freezes in panic. She drops the article of clothing that she was about to hang on the clothesline. And Haku continues, smiling and laughing, "Look, isn't it beautiful?" And his mother frantically grabs his wrist, and this breaks the water sphere, and she tells him, "No, you can never, do you hear?" And she calls him a wicked child and beats his ass. And Haku obviously doesn't understand what's going on and is begging his mom to stop and is pleading that he doesn't understand. And his pleas become more and more frantic, and kind of everything escalates to the point that Haku's mom slaps him in the face. And this stops Haku, but she is obviously, everybody's traumatized at this point. And she immediately stops and tries to apologize repeatedly and calls Haku her darling. And it then reveals that Haku's father witnessed this entire thing transpire. And Haku remarks, "My father had seen, and so he knew our secret, my mother's and mine." And it flashes to a plate crashing in Haku's house, and Haku is cowering away from a group of men in his house, his father chief among them. And Haku's father approaches crying and goes to kill Haku with a club. And it's already dripping blood from his mother, right? Like he just did his mom in, and he's coming to take him out too. And Haku's obviously terrified. Everything goes red and he screams. And it transitions us outside of the house, and there's a snow rabbit hopping along the dense snow. And Haku walks out into the field and collapses face first into the snow. And he lays there crying, devastated in the snow. And in the background, we get a glimpse of the house. And this just basically big, huge ice crystals protruding from the house in every direction. Clearly, nobody in that house made it but Haku. It takes us back to the bridge, and Haku tells Naruto, "When at last I was myself again, I was no longer myself. My father and mother were gone, but I knew that something else had been taken from me, something even more important, and that is what I truly desired." And Naruto questions what could be more important than his parents, and Haku responds, "My purpose. In all the world, there was no one who needed me. I was unnecessary." And this hits home for Naruto really strongly, and he even thinks, "Just like me." And Haku then questions, "Why is it you're so determined to be Hokage? Because you want all the eyes in your village to look on you and recognize you as a great ninja. You see, it is only through the eyes of others that our little lives have any significance. When there is no one who sees you or will even look at you, it's as if you don't exist. Then Zabuza came along and looked at me, and his eyes were not full of hate or fear. He did not shun me for my strangeness. Indeed, my special powers were just what he wanted. He made me necessary again." And it then flashes us back to when Zabuza happened across a homeless Haku on the bridge in the snow. And Zabuza says, "Little kid like you with no one to look after you, you'll die a beggar's death." And Haku looks up at him and smiles and says, "Hey, you know what? Your eyes remind me of mine." And Zabuza asks, "Well, little one, will you stay here and die, or come with me and be of some use? Will you serve me and submit to my will in all things?" And Haku hesitates for a while, but eventually nods affirmatively. And Zabuza's gaze narrows, and he says, "Then your special abilities belong to me from this day forward." And Haku silently stands up and walks over to Zabuza, and Zabuza puts his hand on his head and then pulls Haku in for a hug and says, "Let us go then." It takes us back to the bridge, and Haku lowers his head and says, "I was happy." And it takes us back to Zabuza and Haku, and they're now standing in like an elevated spot overlooking the city, like make-out point type shit. And Zabuza says, "I'm done here. Tonight I cast aside the land of water. One day I will return and seize this land and hold it in my hands. Many things must be done before that day comes, and you will help me do them. But I warn you, friendship, comfort, encouragement, I do not need these things, nor should you expect them from me." And Haku tells him, "I understand. I am yours, Zabuza. I am only an instrument of your will. Think of me as a weapon to be kept at your side and used as you see fit." Zabuza cracks a smile and says, "Well said, child." It then at that point takes us back to the standoff on the bridge, and Haku says, "I've failed you, Zabuza. I'm like a weapon that has been broken and is of no further use." He then starts slowly walking towards Naruto and says, "Naruto, kill me." And holy cow, they gave us a lot of backstory there going over Haku's come up. Zabuza is clearly a lunatic with this whole indentured servitude slavery play that he's got this kid in. Like, this dude's obviously a real life predator, right? Wild shit that they have going on in here. Haku basically came up in a place that had just endured a civil war, and the people there feared people who possessed a Kekkei Genkai. The people who possessed a Kekkei Genkai in the Land of Water were effectively instruments of war during the civil wars, and so the people around now hate people who possess the Kekkei Genkai. Haku's mom hid her abilities and lived a normal life until Haku discovered his Kekkei Genkai in front of his dad, which prompted his dad to gather a mob, killing his mom and attempting to kill Haku, which led to Haku defending himself and killing everyone. This led to Haku leading a homeless, lost life where Zabuza happened to cross him and saves the day in exchange basically for indentured servitude or slavery. So that's Haku's backstory at this point, from what we know. And at this point, it takes us back to Kakashi, who's standing alone in the mist, and he casts several hand signs and yells, "Ninja art summoning, earth style, fang pursuit jutsu," and he slams the scroll down on the ground, and text comes pouring out of the scroll in streams in multiple directions. And when the text stops, Zabuza remarks, "I don't know why you bother. Of what use is your jutsu if you can't even find me? But I can find you, blindly falling into my trap. You disappoint me, Kakashi. I think you're right. It is time to put an end to this." And suddenly the ground beneath Zabuza starts to tremble, and Zabuza gasps, and a bunch of dogs with ninja headbands come bursting out of the ground and bite Zabuza's legs, and several more dogs come leaping in from the side, and it takes us to Tazuna and Sakura. And this is wild. I wonder how this is going to pan out with like Kakashi having these dogs grabbing Zabuza. That's a real clever little play. You would never expect it, right? It's just I didn't know what to think whenever I saw it first time. I think it's the first time I've actually seen any dog summonings and seeing them doing anything like this. So it's a neat moment. And so, as I was saying, we're effectively being confronted with Tazuna and Sakura on the screen at this point, and Tazuna asks, "That terrible noise, what could it be?" And Sakura responds, "I don't know, and I'm not sure that I want to find out." And they're referring to the dogs mauling Zabuza off in the fog, right? You can imagine what it sounds to have a Jonin getting mauled by dogs off in the distance in the fog. It's probably terrifying sounding. Kakashi then stands up and announces, "I realized if I couldn't see you, I'd have to smell you out. That was a summoning jutsu. I was calling forth my ninja hounds. They can track a scent anywhere. And it shows Zabuza being bitten by about a dozen dogs of varying breeds everywhere. Big dog on his back biting his shoulder and neck. Little dogs on his arms, little dogs on his legs. I mean, he's hemmed up right now. And Kakashi then continues, when you attacked me, I let you get past my guard. I wanted you to cut me. You see, it's the smell of my blood on your blade that led them to you. Surprised? Looks like I wasn't the only one who was blind, falling into my trap. You disappoint me, Zabuza. Ah, the mist is finally clearing. And you know what I see? Your death. And this is wild, man. So whenever the fight first started between Kakashi and Zabuza, and Kakashi realized that Zabuza was going to attack Tazuna, and he got in just at the last minute to prevent Zabuza from actually killing Tazuna. He got cut right there, and as it turns out, that was a ploy from the very beginning. From the moment that these fools started fighting the second time, Kakashi knew that he was going to have to get his blood on Zabuza's blade so that he could have these hounds track him in an environment where he was unable to track Zabuza. So this fool Kakashi has yet again had Zabuza set up like jigsaw since step one. And Zabuza remarks sharply at this point, Talk, do you mean to talk me to death? And Kakashi responds, in a way, yes. Right now, my hounds are just playing with you. But one word from me and they'll tear you apart. Poor Zabuza. See where your ambitions got you? You were always pushing things too far. It was the failed Mizukage assassination and your attempted coup d'etat where you were forced to flee with your few followers you had, with your country's tracker ninja hot on your heels, and you became a rogue ninja whose name was quickly known even in the village hidden in the leaves. Now, you're crazy enough to want to go back and try again, but for that, you need money. And to get it, you stooped so low as to be the hired thug of a swine like Gato. All right, Zabuza, enough talk. Time to finish this. But it won't be with Sharingan imitations of some other ninja's tricks. No, it's time I introduce you to my own jutsu. And Kakashi casts several hand signs, and a circle of chakra begins to swirl violently around him on the ground. It then reveals he's holding a ball of lightning that's arcing all over the place. It's making a wild noise, and it's particularly grounding and like arcing to the ring of chakra that was on the ground surrounding Kakashi. And Kakashi yells, Lightning Blade. And so this is the first time we've seen Kakashi's Lightning Blade jutsu, which is dope, right? This is something that he made on his own. It isn't an imitation. This is Kakashi's jutsu, which is dope. The copy jutsu even has his own jutsu. It's really neat. Zabuza is shocked by this and remarks, chakra so strong it's visible, he holds it in his hands. And Kakashi then tells Zabuza, I won't allow you to kill Tazuna. He's a brave man with a noble dream. The bridge he's building is the hope of this land and all its people. You're like a disease. By attacking one, you infect all, and you don't care. That's not the way of the shinobi. And Zabuza exclaims, You're right, I don't care. These useless little people and their petty little dreams, why should they matter to me? I have a dream of my own. And Kakashi interrupts him, But to have a dream, you need to have a future, and you don't. Your future's all used up, Zabuza. And it then takes us over to Naruto and Haku, who are having their little standoff. And Haku is telling Naruto, Go on, strike, kill me. Why do you hesitate? And Naruto clenches his fists in frustration and steps back and exclaims, That's the most ridiculous story I've ever heard. I mean, he treats you like a slave. You're a human being, not a weapon or a tool. How can you care about someone like that? And Haku responds, For that very reason. And this confuses Naruto, who remarks, Huh? And Haku continues, "Does that seem strange to you?" And Naruto answers, "Well, yeah, a little." And Haku responds, "When he found me, I was without purpose or a reason for living. Zabuza gave me both." And it then flashes back to Haku running along the trail, and a snow bunny is on the trail, and it's starting to melt, and he grabs the snow bunny and has it in his arms, and he's smiling and laughing and is running along with the snow bunny, just like being generally innocent, right? The bunny leaps from his arms and dodges into some bushes, and just as it looks like the bunny is gone, Zabuza steps from around the tree holding the bunny by the ears, and he gives the bunny back to Haku, who smiles and snuggles the bunny, and Zabuza runs ahead. And this is cute, right? The Haku and Naruto both snuggled the white bunny. At this point, it takes us back to the standoff on the bridge, and Haku continues, "But now my usefulness is over. The only thing that gave my life meaning, it's gone. I'm a broken tool, a blunted weapon of no use to anyone. Go on, Naruto, do it. For both of our sakes, do it. Quickly." And the episode ends, right? It left us on a cliffhanger. I think that's a common theme. I think that pretty much every episode we're going to be left needing to know what happens next episode in order to keep us watching. So it seems like that's a pretty consistent thing that they're doing with their recipe. But, final thoughts on the episode. Haku's backstory, just to kind of run through it again. He was born into a place that had been ravaged by civil war, and the Kekkei Genkai possessing clans were instruments of war in all of this. The people of Haku's homeland, the Land of Water, resent the Kekkei Genkai possessing clans after their usefulness had expired after the Age of Civil War. Haku's mother hid her Kekkei Genkai and lived a normal life until Haku awakened his Kekkei Genkai, which his father saw, who then gathered up men, and they came back and killed Haku's mother and attempted to kill Haku, who defended himself and killed all of his attackers. He basically lived an unfulfilled, meaningless life until Zabuza came and found him and gave him a use. I guess when you have nothing at all, being useful in the hands of someone else can be more fulfilling than absolutely nothing, right? So there's that. Zabuza's an absolute fuckboy for roping young homeless Haku into this wild arrangement. Zabuza is also a super gangster, though. The dude damn near assassinated the Mizukage, the leader of the hidden village in the mist, within the Land of Water, and lived to tell the tale. Imagine if someone came into the village hidden in the leaves and damn near took out the Hokage, and they weren't able to stop him, they weren't able to catch him, and he's just like out there in the world, right? Imagine someone tried to kill Hiruzen, and they're just out there in the world. That is Zabuza in the Land of Water. So he's a big time bad guy, as it turns out. It's wild that he's out here working for Gato to finance another attempt to take over the village hidden in the mist. It was cool that Kakashi summoned dogs. That's badass. Who doesn't love a good dog? But it's also badass that Kakashi set this fool up like Jigsaw from the very first blow that was landed in their fight after they got ambushed on the bridge. So Kakashi is way, way, way out in front of all this stuff. Also, the lightning blade is a really cool looking jutsu, cool sounding jutsu. It's got a neat name. It makes neat noises. It looks pretty on the screen. I can't wait to see if it fucks shit up, right? Hopefully it's as cool in its effectiveness as it is in its presentation. Zabuza tried to kill the Mizukage, which, to be fair, I think he tried to kill the guy who was running the village at the time when they were doing all the fucked up shit that Zabuza talked about earlier, right? The whole pitting the ninja trainees against one another stuff. Yeah, if that's what was going on, that needed to be ended, and I'm here for it. But clearly the dude is not on the right side of the fence working with the Gatos of the world, right? But if Zabuza's intentions were to go out and create reform within the Blood Mist Village, right? Like it's the fucking Blood Mist Village, right? And Zabuza was trying to usurp the people who held power there, and so, maybe he would have been the lesser of two evils, right? And maybe he was purely motivated by getting back at those people who were so evil for so long. But again, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to go into explaining any of that, but no, it definitely seems like the Mizukage and the people who are running the village hidden in the mist, the Blood Mist Village, are some bad guys, right? You can't be taking the Narutos, Sasuke's, and Sakura's of the world and then having them all kill one another at the end of their training, right? You're bad guys if you do that. I don't fuck with you, period. And I mean, to make it real clear, right? Like all this gray area bullshit, right? He's fighting against Naruto, right? The show is called Naruto. Naruto's the good guy. Zabuza's the bad guy. Let's not overcomplicate it. Coming up, we're going to see how the Kondo and fight between Naruto and Haku is going to wrap up now that Haku's effectively admitted defeat, right? I don't know if Naruto is going to oblige him and give him a warrior's death now that he has conceded to the better man, right? I don't think that Naruto's got it in him to just like Excalibur this guy now that he's like, I'm not good enough. Hopefully he'll be able to talk to Haku and illustrate to Haku that he has worth outside of his usefulness to Zabuza, right? Haku definitely seems to have some endearing qualities, and there may be some room for reform and bringing him onto the team, right? I don't know about Zabuza. Zabuza seems like a purely bad guy. But with that, we can put a bow on this episode. There was a lot that went down in terms of explaining the backstory of the bad guys that we're dealing with right now. And obviously, Haku, I don't think you can even really call a true bad guy. I think he's more or less like a neutral type of character who's been influenced poorly due to the scarcity of his come up. But either way, I digress again, right? We're going to sit here and talk for an hour, and I'm trying to put a bow on this. So everybody, thank you so much for tuning in yet again. I appreciate all the love and support. I'm really looking forward to going over episode 18 with you guys. Go like and share the memes, participate in the comments, engage on the social medias. Let's create a community, right? The whole point is to be friends here. Let's be friendly. And with that, I'm Joshua. I'm your Konoha companion. And thank you again so much for tuning in. And I'll catch you next time.